What about my sweat equity? Sweat equity. Sweat equity. My sweat equity.
200.
My sweat equity. Sweat equity. What about my sweat equity?
No more of those, right?
You forgot about the hottie toddy. That's how we introduce everything. That's the radio call in. That's how you get fired up. With us in the studio for a 200th streaming show episode of Sweat Equity. Ed Keels, Tyson. I always mess up how I'm going to say your last name. I want to say Skull Off.
Yeah, that is so wrong.
Yeah. How do I say your last name?
You know, all you got to do is think of Tyson Chicken
Tyson Chicken.
and the chef that cooked it.
And the chef that cooked it.
Tyson Chef.
That'll make it worse for him.
Yeah.
This
Now
is our
I'm like,
guest, Tyson
now I got
Chicken.
an enigma. That voice you heard is Tyson. Ed, let him hear your voice.
That
Bring
would
you
be
in.
me.
And there you go. Small Business Edge is what has been recorded in the Sweat Lodge studio where we do this podcast. And kudos to Ed and Tyson for their show getting lifted out of here. And kudos to their producer and director, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Eric Reginger. Is that how you say it?
Yep, that's how you say it.
Pretty much.
Man, I'm just excited to be here for the 200 show. I mean, this is big.
Yeah. Thank you all for dressing up.
Yeah,
you know,
guys, what's the deal? I thought we made it clear. Shirts and jackets and
I mean,
all
we
that.
said 200th. I guess we thought that'd
It
be
means
enough.
nothing to anybody anymore.
I know law. I thought this was dressing up.
Usually it's sleeveless shirts only, or
In their defense, I'm wearing shorts underneath
Actually,
it.
in one show, you did not wear a shirt, if I recall correctly.
yeah, we did that for the 100th episode. Eric has been on as a co-host.
Yeah.
You know,
That one, nobody else did it, just me.
yeah,
'Cause nobody cares about me.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, we care.
Well, guys, congratulations on the 200th. For those people who haven't been listening to all 200, and for my viewers on television, can you explain why? I mean, why did you do this?
Why Sweat Equity?
Yes.
So it started when we started. If you're watching this on your viewer, on your phone, on your Stratocaster, whatever you're watching this on, the flame logo in the middle of the table we're on is Tokubaga Consulting, and I thought it would be a good idea to ask as many entrepreneurs questions about how to run a business as possible. You learn by example, I think, and a lot of times if you can. Podcast, or a better way, I listen and get educated on topics. And then Eric came aboard with that a couple years in, and we were just curious about everybody's plight.
Yeah, well, he and I also have the creative monkey on our backs all the time, where it's like if we don't create something, we get antsy and we get grumpy, and this is, I think, the best way for us to have that outlet,
For that creative outlet.
to
yeah.
be funny, to be able to talk about stuff that we want to talk about, and it really, I mean, for me, we talk about it all the time. This is the only conversation we have where nobody's playing on their phone, we're
Right.
actually talking to each other and having to listen.
Right.
Because if you zone out, you're not. It's
So-
not a good show.
So I'm curious, after 200 episodes, what's the common and largest problem that entrepreneurs have that you've experienced or witnessed?
Getting out of your own way, I would say, myself included. That's kind of what the podcast subtext is about. Is we're still learning as we're going too, and I think that's part of the. I listen to a lot of podcasts for the hosts. I like to listen to what's going on in their life as it goes. Mark Maron, Adam Carolla, Joe Rogan, they're figuring stuff out as they go. They're comedians. They're also podcasters making a living off of that. But there's always something where I'm listening to Pete Holmes and the trajectory, the ups and downs of his career as the podcast's going. It pretty much is why I keep listening, I think. And so for me, a lot of it is know what you don't know what you're poor at, either delegate that out or work better at it. And everybody we've talked to, I think that's the main thing in the beginning, at least. We're talking to a lot of people in the beginning.
Yeah, and it's
Sure.
it's small business talk, but it morphs into psychology very quickly a lot of times. And like Law said, we're very curious about that sort of thing, and we like to really think about thinking, I guess is the way to put it, to try and get inside, like, why would somebody go, like, what's really keeping you back, sort of stuff. And I think Law is right. Like getting in your own way is probably the biggest thing. Where it's like you defeat yourself before things happen, and then you give up, and you don't even give yourself a chance.
Yeah, most people quit long before they should, and just it's like one brick wall, I'm done.
Right.
It's a shame. So, which leads me to an important question. What was the germination of this? I mean, you guys got together over drinks. I mean, you knew each other for 15, 20, 30 years. I mean, what what gave birth to this?
Germination. Can you use that in a sentence? Wait, you already
How
did.
did it form, idiot?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, Law was doing it before. He originally had another co-host.
He was my guma. I
As a
had a
side
wife
piece.
before. Yeah, he was the side piece. No, I had this going since I started this firm, and then Eric was working here and doing some website development, some other odds and ends, and him and I had known each other for a long time, for about 5-6 years, and our comedic kind of tastes are about the same. And again, it's that
That'll
thing
do
of
it.
like, yeah, we've got this curiosity that is almost boundless, and I think that is something that I hope we imbue in our kids. And I think that's something that it's really hard to cultivate, I think. But as long as we stay curious, that alone, I think, is good enough for a show. There's 600,000 podcasts out there. So if you're listening to this one right now, we feel very blessed that even 10 people listen, right? And we have a couple thousand for every episode. So
Nice.
But
pretty good.
realistically, it was one of those things where it was like, well, do you want a podcast? And it's, okay, let's do it. And then, it just I just kind of latched on and just inserted myself as a co-host.
So
Yeah.
you weren't always in this palatial studio.
yeah,
But
yeah, always.
No, the first one wasn't done like in your wife's closet or something.
It was always in this room,
Well,
but it was it wasn't as improved as it is now.
Right.
Gotcha.
Eric has taken the producer reins on his own and kind of made this what it is. We're slowly but surely doing it, and part of the thing is the little meta sweat equity of the show. We're not putting a big budget into this. We're figuring this out because we have no budget. We always say we're like dumpster raccoons of productivity. We're always being scavengers for that. That's why I'm always like, have you gone on Product Time? Have you gone on alternate2.net? People are like, what are you talking about? And I go, I'll be the Susie Orman of digital products. I'll be the Susie Orman of did you know about this site? Do you know about this thing? Because we had to figure it out.
That's one of the things I loved about the stories about how you put everything together. Like the foam that you have on the walls. I think that's a story about you.
Yeah.
Correct?
Oh yeah.
Put
Yeah,
your
this
put your
is-
energy.
Yeah, there's a lot of cursing in this room happening.
There's something to be
Broken
said
tiles.
about that. I
Yeah.
mean, like if you've got a lot of built up energy, something's going wrong, you can wallow in that, right? As a business owner,
Very easily.
this podcast is more for the people that are trying to do something and don't know how to get it off the ground, right?
Right.
You work at a 9-to-5 job and you hate it. We've both been there. I've done the corporate job. I've done the mom and pop where you're everything, and I've done the franchise group. I've kind of had every aspect of it now in the entrepreneurial realm, and we're going through it. Eric now technically has like 3 entities going between this studio,
Oh, yeah.
the show, and his own dental practice with his wife, which is, as you know, you've consulted Ed, and both of y'all have actually consulted a lot of businesses. The family business one might be the most difficult
Right.
because it
Can
never
be,
it never
sure.
ends.
Right.
To me, doing stand up forever, it's when I hear people talking about. I hear people talking about, well, I only work an hour a night, and I hate when stand-up say that because I go, no, it's the other way around. The hour on stage is actually the fun part.
Right.
Everything else, your brain doesn't stop. That's why they're all crazy,
Sure.
right? It's not the shitty motel that makes them mad. It's the time spent idle hands kind of thing, right? And so if you put that energy into something good, if you find a way to use that time positively, I think that's a much better use for most people anyway.
Well, I love the Sweat Lodge, moniker. It really is telltale, and it's you're living that philosophy you have of bootstrapping it. And I coach people to do that all the time. And before they even have a proof of concept, they come office and want to borrow $1 million to do something. It's like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we get a lot of that with apps,
Do you?
right? Because it's a shortcut.
Right.
It feels like a shortcut.
Yeah.
It feels like a cheat code. I have an idea. It's really easy to execute an app. When in reality, I read an article that said it costs as much as a car, right? You can find a used car and you can program it yourself. You can build it up yourself, right?
Sure.
And build it into some. You can have a lot of El Caminos that are trash in your front yard, right?
Right.
And you can build those up, or you can pay for an expensive Tesla that's brand new off the lot. That's going to be 130 grand easily, right? So apps aren't as easy as people think because they don't have a lot of assets to put into it. But we're now getting into this. We're getting into this area where there's less tangible, more intangible kind of brand. You're branding all the time, and it used to be a word that I never heard until like 10 years ago. Now it's all you hear for we're the older millennials of our generation. So it's one of those things where people think that's a cheat code. I've got an idea. I don't have to open a restaurant. It's not. It doesn't have to be the new Ruby Tuesdays.
Right.
All it has to do is be on people's phones and it exists in perpetuity. Well, not really, right? The biggest thing when you have an app is, does it exist? If it does exist, why didn't you know that, right? If it doesn't exist, why doesn't it exist already? Because I guarantee someone else has probably beat you to it.
Sure.
You're not
Right.
that unique. Creativity is not that unique too.
Right.
Yeah.
We should say that this is a swap cast also
Right.
with Ed, in case you're wondering why Ed has so many questions ready for us, and we're letting him ask them right away.
But
That's
yeah.
it. Just for our listeners, because they're going to be like, why is this guy taking over their show?
No,
like
no,
this?"
we prefer it anyway.
We just
hijack
didn't
it.
say it out loud. I wanted to make sure everybody knew.
Yeah, we're going to use you on our television show. It's going to be important for our viewers to see where we film and the creative genius behind the curtain, and will never be on camera except for today.
Yeah, exactly. There's enough of us on camera. Don't worry. We don't need any more of us.
Yeah, we can get deep faked into something real now. Have you seen that kind
Oh
of
yeah.
stuff?
No.
See, this is where we like to kind of go on tangent highway with our show a bit. But the deep fake stuff is it can take any soundbite. There's enough video of us talking that you could basically take that and make it look and sound however
They
you
could
want.
put our faces on whatever they wanted,
Sure.
basically, because we've got enough of our footage, to have the data there to make
Got it.
every face you could make or whatever they have to have. I saw Bill Hader with Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on him.
Yep.
On like the Tonight Show, and it was like, it looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but with Bill Hader's voice doing Arnold. It's mind blowing. You'll have to check it out.
Is there something I need to be concerned about?
Yes,
Deep fakes.
Yeah.
AI in general.
You can't watermark it really.
Yeah.
So someone
Yeah.
could say you said something,
Right.
and we're in this age where PR kind of matters, whether we want to admit it matters or not. It does. If someone says you said something, it's really hard to disprove it, right?
Especially if they have digital evidence.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's scary. It's not. I don't think it'll be. I think we like hysteria first, and then in practicality, I bet it's harder to do than just someone piecemealing it together. But I don't know.
I saw some Instagram dude had his girlfriend who he looked like, all right, his girlfriend looked like a famous like Kardashian or something, and he had her facing the other way, and he was kissing her, and then posted on there, she's cheating on him with this guy, and it blew up like on the news, and it wasn't even this chick, it was
Yep.
just made up fake news, and
Whoa,
now
whoa, whoa,
it's over.
there's fake news.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yes.
Trump was
It's-
right, man. Coolest president of all time, bro.
Oh, God.
Isn't
If
he
you
so
go-
cool?
Law is pretty alt-right. I don't know if you guys know that. He's gonna have
I've
his
been,
own
I've been
alt-right.
getting called alt-right. I just think it's funny to go up to people and go, "Hey, Trump, right? Dopest president alive."
Did you see the
And you
pic
haven't
of
been
him?
punched yet?
No,
Did you see the
No,
pic of him with if he had a bald head and a beard?
No, but we'll have to get that on the show notes.
He looks badass.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
is
was
it a
possible.
wispy beard? Like,
Oh no, it's
Is it
a
a
nice
comb
beard.
over from the one side to
It's,
the other?
no,
beard?
it's bald head, nice gray beard.
I just picture Hulk Hogan.
Well, it scares me because my favorite president. We can go around the room. Favorite president, if you want. Teddy Roosevelt.
Taft.
Teddy Roosevelt. Guy got shot giving a speech and kept giving a speech. How
Yeah,
badass is
yeah,
that?
he is the most badass.
Do you like national parks? Well, you like Teddy Roosevelt.
I know that he started the national parks. You're not dropping knowledge on me.
Do
Come
you,
on, get out of here.
do you like a lot of railroads around the country? I think he was possible for that. I'm running out of
I
out of
do.
steam.
I
Do you?
do like that.
Well, they say Donald Trump would be a lot like him, but or vice versa. They said the personalities are kind of
Where he goes missing for
insane.
months.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what Roosevelt did. And that was the 1950s.
Good shot. Keeps on going.
Yeah, where Trump might be on amphetamines, I think Teddy Roosevelt was just crazy. So I think.
Pretty sure they could get amphetamines pretty easy back
Oh
then
yeah,
too.
I guess. Well, I'm thinking was
That was
he
over-the-counter
18?
stuff
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. But at any rate, I think that inertia can carry a lot of people, and I know y'all know that in small business kind of world is where y'all swoop in. You kind of are doing the thing. You're doing the activity I wanted to do to get into this because we kind of marry old school business consulting like y'all are doing with the new digital age. That's kind of our niche. We're right there in the middle. I turned 35 in a couple of days. Eric's already 35. So we're right there where we grew up without the internet, then kind of with it and had to learn it throughout our lives. And it's kind of been in the backdrop for the last 20 years for sure, what we call the modern internet, I'd say. And then now we know enough in that area that we basically explain the internet a lot of the time. I don't know, but what we want to do is go in like John Taffer and yell at people for not doing the right stuff. My friend from Bar Rescue. I just want to go
Do
in and
this!
go, yeah. You didn't use gloves?
You're gonna get people sick.
Yeah. Shut it down. You're getting people sick.
Shut it down.
Yeah. I just
Fish
want to do
mouth.
that all day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting. Ed and I do the same thing, but we do it when we met. We were basically doing it from exact opposite spectrums.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm gonna need you to cheat over a little bit this way so we can see your beautiful
Oh, there we go.
I'm
green eyes.
well,
I don't
Doesn't matter.
No, that's Dirk Pitt. I'm sorry.
just make sure. I want to make sure you're on camera and all
Well,
that
thank you.
stuff.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah. The reality is that my career, 30 plus years of business consulting was that 10,000-foot view and going to department to department to department,
Right.
looking at business processes, right? But then I met Ed, and Ed, you did it forensically. You also did it practically because you've been involved in so many businesses. But in Ed's world, it's getting the tax returns because all the details are in the tax returns. The devil's in the details, and if he parses them apart, so.
Well, Taffer does the same thing. He does it forensically. He'll bring in.
That's just boring
you know,
TV, though, right?
Yeah, he'll
Yeah.
bring in people to do an audit before and inventory before and after shift, and show them how much they're losing.
Right.
Because you can't argue with those statistics.
Yeah.
The only reason he can yell at people and you and I can't is because he's going to give them $100,000 and renovate their bar.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And they either want that or they don't.
Well, part of it, as you know, is breaking them down. That's what I've heard. That's the reason he's yelling at them. He's
It's a
doing,
huge problem.
which comes back to the psychology 101. If people can't take criticism, they're not going to really change. And if you look at the show results, once he leaves, they change the name back to the bar. They do all the old stuff they were doing. And it's like this guy came in with a TV show, even though it's cooked.
Right.
Right? It doesn't matter if it's cooked or not. The end product, you got $100,000 in revenue or renovations to generate revenue. If you just follow what this guy tells you, even though you don't like it, right? In what business do you like everything you're doing? Right? 98% of it is not fun. I mean, the satisfaction rate is different, right? I don't talk about being happy. We talk about like just get what satisfies you. And our thing here was like we like to take a client from here to there, and that gives us kind of the business satisfaction. What's the best beer you have at the end of the day? Before we got on the mic, you're talking about doing stuff, handiwork around the house, or building a project with your hands, doing something non-digitally. The best beer you have is the beer you have after that. There's some satisfying about doing labor all day and then doing that. But how do you go in forensically, just for anybody listening that might do that on themselves, no sex joke intended. See, I'm being on good behavior. We're wearing a tie and everything. How would one just basically go through a P&L or an income statement of their own business? I guess first they need to do that. And then secondly, what could they look for? What would you look for, I guess, if you're a service business maybe?
Well, part of the problem is as long as there's enough money coming through the door to pay the bills, people think they're successful. Period. They don't bother to look at line by line by line of any expenses that are unnecessary or they're paying too much for, where they could get competitive bids. Those are the first things they look at. They just don't do it. The time that they try and save their businesses or make changes is when there's a downturn in their industry or in the economy, like there was years ago in the restaurant industry in 2008, went down 40%. It put Bennigan's out of business. Just because you're big doesn't mean you do it well.
Right.
And so
McCormick and
I
Schmitz.
forgot
what's
about
up?
Bennigan's.
Yeah.
yeah,
They're gonna bring it
French
back.
Bennigan's.
I heard they're bringing it back from guys like yourself that might come in and go, "Hey, you still got a brand name here."
Shh, don't give anybody that idea. But
I got a lot of equity venture friends as well.
on we need to talk.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, most people just don't then know how to turn it around. It's too far. They've done the same thing and it worked for 10 years. They're not willing to change. The other problem is you have in consulting is try as a third party to shake them up, let alone have them shake themselves up, is they just can't imagine that you, who've never been in their business, could tell them anything that they don't already know about their business because they're there all day, every day. Entrepreneurs are not lazy people,
No.
but their solutions suck. It's their ideas. Man, I'm working 10 hours a day. I will not be denied. I'm not going to work 11 or 12 hours a day. More of the same just gives you more of the same. And if you're losing a nickel on every one, you can't make it up in volume. Worst thing you can do is sell more. So,
What does that mean? Just
well, if you're, I mean, if
I think I know what you're saying. I just want to
if
kind of
you're- if-
expand on that.
and go,
I think Eric needs
For all
to
the
know.
stupid people out there, why don't you tell them other people, not me, though?
I think I know what it is, but could you explain it for Eric?
Sure. So,
Sure, Eric, idiot.
my sister, my daughter used to run one of the most successful beer bars in the country. Not beer bar kind of food. I mean, it's high level stuff. And we did a cost analysis one day on a fish dish they had, and it cost them like $12, and they were selling it for like 14.
Mm.
They're not making any money.
Right.
They're not even covering labor cost. And so
$12 cost on it. What kind of fish we
on a
talking
14, I don't
It was
remember.
really good fish.
Yeah, so really good.
about? Better
expensive.
been.
And then she said it was
So
a
off a naked
complicated
woman.
complicated dish that came, one of the dishes that came back most often. So if you got to throw one away and make another one, you might as well not even have that on your menu.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But no margin, no mission kind of thing. So you got to look at cost in comparison to your price. So if you're losing on every sale, the worst thing you can do is go make more sales.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like
pricing's an
to
issue.
me that a big problem with it is egos. You know,
Huge.
if you're
Huge.
if you're starting your own business, you have to have a good bit of confidence in yourself. And if you get to a point where you're anywhere successful, that's going to only add to that. How do you overcome these egos that are maybe beaten down at that point when
Well,
you're coming in?
One problem that we have leading into that is the ego is huge, and people wait too long to ask for help. They just, I'm going to figure it out on myself. It's totally a pride thing. We have a sister company we work with, we refer business to when people are in deep trouble. And I asked this guy one time, and they can save them. They truly can. And I said, "What's your biggest problem?" And he said, "People wait too long. When they finally contact us, they're gone. We can't help. The landlord's locking the door." But getting over the ego, there are a couple of techniques that consultants use. One is to come in with, we talked about forensic information, but you come in with like a foot worth of forensic information and go, boom, on the desk. And it's like, that's your business. Yeah, and in seconds, they learn that you know more about their business than their accountant ever knew, or that's the other. They rely too much on their accountant. Their accountant's
Right.
not going to do any
It's
planning and advice. There's never an accountant on the planet that
It's a
says, "Hey, your
part of-
food costs are jacked up, dude. You need to fix that."
And the accountants are always
Part-
like, "That's
part-
a bad investment," and you're like, "Well, their whole
Why?
job is to be low risk everything." So
part of it is
yeah.
a trust issue,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Who do you trust? You
Right.
trust your accountant. You trust your attorney. But the reality is, your accountant and your attorney, they're not business people. They know their craft, right? You need somebody who really understands business. That's what Ed does. That's what caught my eye. I went through a seminar with Ed, and I was just blown away. I've been a consultant for 35 plus years, right? And all of a sudden, I'm hearing all this stuff. It really pulled back the veil for me for both CPAs and attorneys to understand that a lot of people put them on a pedestal. They shouldn't really be there. I mean, there are a lot of good CPAs out there, a lot of good attorneys out there,
Because
right?
they have accreditation,
Yeah.
Right.
right? There's
Right.
the business consulting you just do, and you just have to build off of what you do.
100%. And so that's the value. I mean,
But
that's
not to besmirch all CPAs and attorneys. When you need them
Yep.
and they serve a purpose, man, you really need them.
100%.
But we give them too much credit for being able to know what's going on in our business and being able to contribute.
And by the way,
rely on it.
we always try to at least throw one pragmatic piece of advice out per episode. And I'd say on my rack sheet when I'm talking to startups is the two things I say to get that outside what you're doing is your business attorney and your CPA. But here's the real pragmatic thing is challenge them. I challenge them all the time. I go, talk to me like I'm 5 because this isn't my area. So
Right.
talk to me like I'm 5. The other things are business insurance, a bookkeeper possibly if you need it. Most people don't. Depends how many transactions you have. Their bookkeepers aren't the same as CPAs. Some people think they are. And then that marketing or business consultant, that outside thing that can take. What do you go to a therapist for, right? All they're doing is reflecting back. If you ever go to one, the first couple of sessions you do, they're just going to reflect back what you're saying. They're not.
So how does that make you feel?
Right.
Right. Exactly. And it sounds pedantic and it sounds almost trite, right? But it's the thing of like you're not doing the self-assessment a lot of the time as an entrepreneur. You're spinning your wheels. I've definitely got caught there a lot of times. A lot of times because my thing is a C plus grade point average, but a lot more hustle than anybody else. And after a while, that
Yeah,
you
if
can
you've got
run-
if you've got a task,
Right.
you're going to do that
Right.
task. I'm the same
Sure.
way. It's like I'm not going to take. It's hard to take the time to stop and just be like, okay,
It's the
100%.
is
I
this
used
doing
to-
the right thing?
I used to have a mentor that one of the sayings he had was a clean broom sweeps clean,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And the reality is, I'll give you an example. There was a restaurant that I was looking at, doing an analysis of. They had 5 locations, right? They loved their CPA, thought he was phenomenal. But I pointed out how they are losing over $100,000 a year in tax breaks because their CPA was not consulting them and simply didn't know this information,
Right.
right? So that's $100,000 a year,
Yeah.
right? I mean, this business has been going for over 10 years. Think about that, right?
Right.
So anyway,
And I'll give a shout out for my business attorney because I love him. He's a great dude.
Right.
Fanteddylegal.com, your business refined, because he's so good. He has other things he's bringing us into. That's what a good business attorney I think should be doing. They should be partnering with other businesses and trying to make their own things happen. So,
Absolutely. To your point about wanting to make a singular point, and to yours about what advice could you give? I dealt with thousands of entrepreneurs, and that's not an exaggeration. Did over 1,000 business valuations out in the field, front door to back door. Analyzed their books.
your wifey's here, so I want a confirmation. Yes, he's okay.
And so
She's not an actress.
what I found over and over again, but she could be.
Okay.
What I found over and over again is that a guy learned how to do something: turn wrenches, fix cars, paint cars, cook, do something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an extroverted, outgoing personality, and he's front of the house in a restaurant. He's the service writer at the auto repair shop. And what he's not is the introverted bookkeeper that's going to sit in the back room and make sure that everything balances. He just won't do it. It fights his personality. Those entrepreneurs are usually pretty damn good with numbers, and they can commit to the accounting for about 2 weeks until there's something more something more pressing. Right. That gets their attention, another product or service they got to put on, another sale they got to make, and they let the accounting go and they come back to it. It's the overwhelming task, and it never gets done. And so what I see this is scary. 80% of all businesses, 8 out of 10, do the bare minimum when it comes to accounting. They hire a payroll company, and they hire an accounting firm at the end of the year to do their tax returns. When the returns come, they don't even look at them. They don't know what's going on in their business. So I would agree with you that they should get a part-time bookkeeper.
And
Now,
look,
if they have a wife that's good at doing books, not just, well, my wife's my bookkeeper because she pays our bills at home. No,
right.
but they should. Everybody can afford a part-time bookkeeper to keep your books on a monthly basis.
Well, you think you're
So you always know
scrutinized by
where
risk averse with a CPA, you'll get it way worse from the wife that's involved in the business.
Sure.
If-
Unless she's my wife.
Well, I'm not. Look, aberration, right?
Right.
Greatness, it can't always come in that kind of marriage. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of guys who do their wife does their books, and they're more risk averse and don't really know what you're saying.
Yeah.
They don't really know what's going on day to day either. You know, they're doing it to help, which
Right.
is great too. Look, I'll take this and I'll be. I try to open source what's going on. I have to remind myself of this conversation because I have a poor habit of not looking at the books. It's avoidance issues. We all have them to some degree. I have avoidance issues with our books, and I need to remind myself of this conversation that we're having right now to get my shit together to get on top of that. 'Cause
Yeah, it fights your personality. And it's not the best use of your time. It's not the best and highest use of your purpose and talents.
Well, here's the thing. I used to be good at it too.
So what?
That's I know, but I know it doesn't take that
I'm
much.
good at shoveling snow, but I never want to do that crap again.
Ooh,
That's why I live
I
here.
want to see you in some snow gear. Yeah. Wink nod. Woo.
Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should.
Agreed. But when's the point to delegate though? What's the threshold?
From day one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can hire a part-time bookkeeper, and they're going to save you more just in finding mistakes in your payables and correcting those
Mm-hmm.
than they'll cost you.
When you
And-
say mistakes, are you talking you're paying too much for this?
No,
or are you talking you're
erroneous
double paying things?
billing, double paying.
Okay.
Yeah,
So simple stuff, but just
Yeah.
stuff that you need to be diligent about.
that you don't have the time when when AT&T messes up your phone bill again, and they do.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to spend 3 hours on hold trying to get a a $10 credit.
Mm-hmm.
And
She will.
If you want an automated way to do that, in case you are fighting, what you should be doing is delegating this out. You can go to trim.co. I got to throw in these other options. Trim.co will do that. I told you about Siftree last week
Yes.
on Friday. Siftree, if you connect it to your QuickBooks or accounting software, it'll look through all the apps you're using in your tech stack, and it'll go, hey, maybe you should try this one. Maybe you should try this one because there's value in that for them. It's an automated way of having that bookkeeper kind of looking through because a bookkeeper can't know about tech stack a lot of the time.
Right.
We've talked about app sap. It's Eric's favorite term.
He's really trying to make this app zap term go viral or
We
whatever.
we
the
got to
hell he
use.
wants it to
We
be.
use. I think at one point we used 80 apps. We have to be bigger than we are, but we also have to be automated for clients and everything else. And so at one point we were using 80 apps in our
Wow.
tech stack, which sounds like a lot, but when you're in the kind of fold of it, if you can make it all in a flow and work, kind of work for you in the background, all you really need to be doing is managing it. So the other part, back to the psychology of all this, is my personal life got mired in all our business. And when I was going through divorce, depression, all that stuff about a year ago, that's when everything went to holy hell. And it's been a kind of slow gain all the way up. So and Eric's in there for the whole ride.
I don't like to comment on that part of it.
Hey,
I think
Don't mean you don't have to be called into court.
No. Oh God.
no,
Right?
nothing. Nothing I've said has been liable. There's no slander, nothing of that. Everything I
No.
say is truthful.
I didn't say nothing.
By the way,
so
this is a comedy show.
yeah,
So
it's
everything
all
on
fake.
here is a
We're all faking
This is
it.
just
It's
like doing
all-
stand-up.
Yeah, this is all just a big scripted joke.
We got
So
that
we're
2-minute
not-
warning.
Yeah. No, we're at it. I just didn't want to. I don't want to mess up Ed's deal too
It-
by throwing in our sound effects.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
okay.
we went sound effect free on this one.
Yeah.
Out of respect.
That took
We
a
have sound
lot
effects?
from me. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, if it's a swap cast, we have to go to y'all standards basically. I cussed once, and that was like
Twice.
Oof,
I heard it twice.
oof.
I was counting.
I 0 times depending on how.
Eric will edit that out.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I'll put a beep in there.
You can just
Blank.
go the blank. That's the way to do it now. There's no
Just-
beep. They just go.
Yeah, it actually probably sounds better that way.
Yeah. It'll sound like I'm having a stroke. I think. Anything else? The one question I did have for you is, for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they have the idea, they have the gumption, they have they have a little bit of seed money, but everybody tells them it's a terrible idea. And how do you know when to pursue that idea into a real business even more? Like when everybody tells you you're crazy, right?
Yeah, but these are people that work for other people, that work for the post office, and they work for or some restaurateur, and they've never worked for themselves and generated a dollar on their own in their life.
Right.
But those are the people that you should listen to.
Yep.
I mean, seriously. No, proof of concept is a really, really, really important thing. If you can prove somebody will buy your widget, because I get people all the time say, "Man, I need $1 million. Why? Well, I got to build this factory, and I got to finish my prototype, and I've got to go to trade shows, and I've got to do all this stuff." Before they've even proven that somebody would buy their widget.
Need.
So prove the concept first that people will in fact pay for that. Just because it's a great widget doesn't mean people will pay for it. And then you got no problem. In fact, I've got unlimited funding. And I know it sounds strange. Unlimited funding after proof of concept. Unlimited, because we have 3 different methods of funding that will stack together, and then people will transition through as their company grows. Because if they have orders in hand, it's easy to fund.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a guy with a great idea, it's going to be a profitable business. That doesn't fly at a bank or any other, or even in an equity firm.
Yeah. A business plan is just a plan, right?
Right.
And so that proof of concept, it's like Big Boy from Outkast. I saw in an interview. He was talking about what's business 101 is find a need and fulfill it.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going straight out of the streets of Atlanta. But I heard that in an interview from Big Boy. I was like, that is business 101.
I heard Ed quoting Pauly D the other day.
Excuse me?
So.
Pauly D from
I'm
what?
not gonna
Jersey
admit to
Shore?
that.
Well,
But yes,
listen,
I did.
it could have been from anybody. It was good advice. He was saying it was the idea of like you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I think it was, and we were talking about just being in front of a camera and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Pauly D, maybe not. He might not be an idiot. I'm
All
just
right,
saying.
Is he the one in tax evasion, or is that the other guy in
I
Jersey
don't
Shore?
There's more than one guy. I thought they were all the same dude.
All right. So how
Well,
about a better quote?
Okay.
I'm not even sure it's better. But,
House guests are
but-
like fish. After 3 days, okay, all right, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, Donnie Deutsch, who does some shows on NBC and has an ad agency or two.
Yep.
I heard him say one day that what you want to find is the item or service that people will pay a disproportionate amount for. And that went bing. So it's not only proof of concept, but an item or a service that people will pay a disproportionate amount for. We have iPhones or smartphones, $1,000. I mean,
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
crazy for 11-year-old kids to have $1,000 phone. You know what? We were lucky. We were lucky to have $1,000 wardrobe, let alone
Right.
$1,000 car, let alone a phone. But man, Apple never discounts.
Mm-hmm.
People are willing to pay a disproportionate amount of their income for that. So, man, if you can find that,
You know why?
that's awesome.
Just got to invent a phone.
The CEO of Apple, where'd he go to college? I forgot. Anybody?
Nobody
didn't
cares
go
that
to
he went to
college?
Auburn.
He went to Auburn.
Oh.
War
Nobody cares.
Eagles. Da-da-da. I'll
Auburn,
just shake this cup a little bit.
Yeah. Got to get the alma mater.
Look, Bo Jackson, Tim Cook, Charles Barkley, myself, we all went there. Great
All-
humans.
Yeah,
Mhm.
academic standouts.
Yep. Couple
Charles
astronauts, no
Barkley.
big deal. Frank Thomas, the big hurt. Cam,
You
Scam
need to
Newton.
just stop mentioning all the athletes.
why? That's all we got, man.
Cadillac Williams,
Cadillac Williams, top 5 pick, no big
Ronnie
deal.
Brown.
All right. You good?
I'm good.
All
I
right.
got a lot of good
200th
knowledge
episode.
today.
What about my sweat equity?
Literally sweating in here.
Yeah,
Sweat equity.
the sweatiest episode yet.
Sweat
Last
equity.
time I
My
was-
sweat equity. My sweat equity.
Pod.com.
What about my sweat equity?